Hey guys, National Master James Canty III here with Chess.com, and today we have member game analysis. Now before we get started, make sure you guys click on the link right now under the video, submit your games so that hopefully yours are chosen for some member game analysis. Now I worked hard on today's study today for you guys, and we're going to learn a lot of things today. So number one, we're going to learn about in-between moves, or Zwischenzug, and what it is, why is it important, and stuff like that. Number two is going to be how to attack the castle king. When that king gets castled, we're going to learn how to attack it, which is very important. And then number three is going to be looking for checks and captures. I find that many people always slip up and don't look for the checks and the captures. That's very important. You got to know where those checks and captures are, because that's going to save you from winning or losing the game in that. So let's get right into it. Today's member is going to be Roxy Yara Nam El. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly. And let's get right into it. Roxy played white here. So let's see what happened. E4 and E5. Cool. E4, best by test. Bobby Fischer loves it. I'm an E4 player myself. Been all my life. I love E4. Then we have E5 here. Standard chess here. I mean, it's played all the way up to the World Championship, of course. E4 and E5 is played. Now we have Knight F3 is played next. Knight F3 is a very good move. It's hitting the E5 pawn. So it's putting a threat on the board, and the more threats that you make, the better. So it's an easy threat to make. We also develop the knight. Knight to C6, it's a development move, but at the same time it defends the E5 pawn. Very simple chess here, just getting some pieces out so we can castle and create some plans. And then we have C3. This is called the Ponziani opening. What does this move even do? This C3 move here is actually about getting more into the center. Two pawns are better than one when you have them in the center. That's why if you look at it, E4 is stopping, not stopping, but it's going to be kind of difficult to play D5 and have two pawns in the center, because I could just capture this one. And vice versa for white. If white were to play D4, black could just capture it, and then we would have to capture back with the knight and not have two pawns in the center, which is usually better than one pawn. So after that, we have Knight F6 on a board, threatening the E4 pawn, and white played D4. Anyway, in a way, sacrificing this E4 pawn. So let's see what happens. If knight takes E4, what's going to happen here? Take a quick second. And we look right into it. Okay, it's going to be D5. D5, hitting this knight. Okay, this is called removing the defender. This is a theme or a tactic theme that you'll see quite often, especially in Chess.com tactics. You'll be able to see that. And this knight is actually protecting this pawn. So because it's protecting it, if we get it to move, we can capture the E5 pawn. And after this knight moves, then we can just capture this pawn here, maybe knight E7, knight takes E5, and white's doing pretty well here. So that didn't happen in the game, though. In the game, the opponent here played, after D4, Roxy played D4, E takes D4, capturing. And that leaves us to our first point. Well, actually, Roxy played knight takes D4 in the game, but this is our first point of the day, which is going to be in-between moves, or Zwischenzug. What this means is that an in-between move is a move you make that is unexpected from the move that is expected to be made, exactly how it sounds. So right here, the expected move, black is expecting white to play knight takes D4. That's exactly what black is expecting, or pawn takes D4. Either or, they're expecting white to capture this pawn. But if we make a move in between, that's actually a very good move, or it's kind of a forcing move in a way to make black respond, then we can actually have maybe a little bit more space or some type of advantage or anything that'll get us going. So after that, E5 is a very good move here. E5, why is it good? Well, first off, it threatens the knight. It also crosses the line. I always talk about crossing the line a lot with my students. And after you cross the line, which is everything from 1 to 4 for me, and everything for 5 to 8 for black. When I cross the line, I'm into enemy territory, and that's when stuff starts to get tough. It gets annoying for my opponent. I'm grabbing a lot of space. I'm grabbing a lot of squares that aren't actually my squares, or my space, to say the least. So E5 is a very good move, grabbing some space here, kicking this knight. This knight is forced to go somewhere, maybe even uncomfortable, like knight H5, which is a really bad move. They always say knights on the rim are grim, or knights on the rim are dim, because instead of having 8 squares, like here, when we're here, we go have 8 squares usually, but when we go here, we only have 4, so that's one bad move there. How about knight G8? Well, that's an ugly move to make. We went back. There's nothing wrong with going back sometimes, but in this position, oh my goodness, it's going to take a long time for me to castle now, and it's just not comfortable for black here. We also have knight E4. Maybe that could work, but I'm also out here by myself with no defenders, nobody to really help. So if I am attacked, I could be vulnerable and actually lose. I actually could lose this knight if I'm playing with the black pieces here. Or knight g4. Knight g4 is an aggressive move. It actually threatens this pawn. That's a very good move. You want to make as many threats as you possibly can. And these knights are both hitting the same pawn here. So that's a good move. Could happen. And if this does happen, well, then we just follow up with the expected move, but a move later than expected. Is pawn takes d4, and now we have 2 pawns in the center. Wow, 2 pawns in the center. Now we have some space. This knight is kind of in the wilderness because he's out here by himself. And a move, let's just make a move like bishop to e7, logical move, just so I can get out of the way and castle my king. And then white plays h3, and this knight is now in very, very bad trouble, to say the least. He doesn't have many moves to go to. He only has one safe move to go to, and that would be knight h6. And this is really not a good move for the knight, especially after bishop takes h6 and then g takes h6. We have double pawns here. And are you really going to castle your king here? Probably not. I hope you don't, so you can win some games. So let's not castle our king in this kind of position here. And black is not doing so well, to say the least. So that in-between move, when you have that move that's an in-between move, a move that is done other than the expected move you were supposed to make, you usually are going to have some type of advantage there. So that was the in-between move that we could have made in this position. But going back, we actually played knight takes d4. So Roxy in this position actually played knight takes d4. And after knight takes d4, we have knight takes e4. So officially, we are officially down a pawn, and it's very tough sometimes to come back being down a pawn. The game is not over, far from being over, but at the beginning of the game, especially playing with the white pieces, we don't want to give up material and not have anything concrete or anything solid enough to say that we're winning for giving up the pawn in that case. So let's look at the next moves here. We play knight takes c6, understandable. So if d takes c6, we usually when they capture this way, we're able to take here, and even though we're down a pawn, well, at least we can still castle here. And we have, you know, we're doing okay. It's not that bad. We are down a pawn, but his king can't castle. And if black can't castle, he may have an issue with king safety in some cases. So that could have been one way to play, but that was not what was played in the game. They always like to say there's always exceptions in chess, number one. Number two is that you want to capture toward the center. So if you can capture a piece, you usually capture it towards the center as opposed to away from the center, which is this way. Now, if the queen was not on d1 for whatever reason and the queen was gone or somewhere else, pawn takes this way away from the center would be good because it opens up the bishop line where pieces need to be open and etc. so they can get out. So in the game, b takes c6 was played, bishop to d3, very good move there, attacking the knight, attack as much as you can. It's also a development move, and at the same time, the king is getting ready to castle, so awesome move. Bishop d3 was played. After bishop d3, we have knight f6, he just goes back to where he came, and then white plays castle. Awesome. Once you castle, you can try to do whatever. Get the rest of the pieces out. Start attacking the king. Okay, we have bishop e7 on the board. So bishop e7, black is going for the same thing. Black just wants to castle, get out of the way, have a good game, and try to convert this extra pawn into a win somehow, some way. So that's what black's going for. Bishop to e7 was played. Bishop to g5, good move here. Just developing some more. You got to get your pieces out. It's a team game. So the more that you develop, the better. Bishop to g5, castle was played. The kings are now safe. So now the plans start. But we do have to get the rest of our guys out here. So let's see what white played. Roxy played queen to c2 here. This is very nice, guys. So it's setting up some type of pressure towards the king. And this leads us to our second point. Attacking the castle king. That is a very, very tough subject, and there's so many things that can happen with the attacking the castle king, but I will give you a key point here that we're going to see and we're going to talk about a lot more. It's also called, it's talking about when you attack the castle king, it usually takes about 3 pieces to have a successful attack. Sometimes 2, sometimes 1, very rare it would be 1, and 2 works sometimes, but to be sure, most times, it usually takes about 3 pieces for a successful attack. So let's see how that works here. What is white attacking with right now? Let's see. Let's count it. Queen and the bishop, that's 2 pieces. And the bishop on g5, which is actually ready to remove the defender of the h7 square, which is the f6 knight. So if we can remove this defender, then the h7 pawn will fall. Great plan, makes a lot of sense. Queen c2 has been played with this direct threat on the board of bishop takes f6 and then bishop takes h7. So black should actually play a move like h6 to now stop anything from being captured on h7, but also creating a threat and questioning this bishop. Are you going to go back? Are you going to go somewhere else? Or are you going to give up this bishop for the knight? So let's see what happened in the game here. Queen c2 was played and d5. Well, that doesn't stop anything on attacking our castle king. So we're going to follow up and do exactly what we came to do. Bishop takes, removing the defender. Bishop takes back, and then bishop takes h7. There we go. We got our pawn back. We're doing quite well here as white. And now after king to h8, only move on the board. Now, here we go. Here we go from here. It takes 3 pieces, guys. It takes 3 pieces for a successful attack. So you need a third piece. But right now, we don't have enough pieces. Where is that third piece? It's kind of like team basketball or team soccer or team sports. You need guys. You need people. You need your teammates to help you win this game. And right now, our teammates are kind of just chilling, hanging out, having nothing to do. When these guys are putting in all the work, it takes 3 pieces. So what I would do as white here is probably black this bishop up first before it gets trapped in here, and then I'm only left with 1 piece that I'm attacking with as opposed to 2. So knight to d2, we got one of the guys out. That's good, but the bad thing is that we left one of the guys behind. And after g6, g6 was played. Now this bishop is trapped. Now there's a good thing and a bad thing going on with this move of g6. The good thing is that black is going to win this bishop no matter what. The bishop is now trapped. But the bad thing for black is that he's giving up king safety, to say the least. So his king could be in some big trouble here if he's not careful. So after g6, white plays bishop takes g6. Only move, probably it is the best move, of course. We're capturing the pawns around the king. Pawn takes, queen takes g6. Now take a look at this position here. If white can get 2 or 3 moves in and maybe get a rook onto this h file, it's going to be checkmate. So a lot of times when I'm thinking about how to attack the castle king, I'm always thinking, how can I get extra pieces around the king? How can I get my friends, my best friends, to hang out with me over here on this side of the board? And that would be these guys. How can I get them over here? Well, one way is creating a plan like rook e1 and rook lift here and hopefully get over to the h3 square, but that's covered by the bishop on c8. So realistically it seems pretty good, but if we can't get it there, it's just not going to work. We also have the knight. Maybe the knight can swing in somehow, some way, but these bishops are very, very strong, and bishops slice the board like lasers. And if you look at it, they cover all the squares. They cover the squares that we vitally need here. So we're going to have to do a little bit of extra work here. So let's see what happened. And actually, at the end of the day, too, we do have this threat set up. If rook to g8, oh my goodness, hands on your face kind of move, it's over. Wow, blunder of the year. Rook g8 is just not a move because queen h6 is checkmate. Oh my goodness, that's a mate for the books. Look at that one. That will be very, very sad for black. But rook g8 was not played. Instead, bishop g5 was played, threatening this knight. You want to make as many threats as you possibly can, so I understand bishop g5 is a very good move. It also stops queen h6 check too as well. So rook to e1. So this move is very, 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 very interesting. And I say very interesting because what happens isn't bishop takes knight? That's a free knight, right? Well, yes, it is actually. It's a free knight. But at the end of the day, sometimes you don't need to take material if your king is in danger. So let's find a move here. And let's go rook e5. Whoa, rook e5. That's a strong move. I'm threatening checkmate in 2 moves here, which is very, very scary. Very, very scary for the black pieces here. Because you have to figure out, well, how can I stop the checkmate here? Really, one of the only ways is to play bishop to f5 here. Bishop f5 and giving some of the material back. And then after rook takes, queen takes. Black is technically still up a piece here, but his king safety is such a compromisation that it's just really bad. It's going to be pretty tough to win this, even though he could still win it because he's up a piece. It's just the fact that his king is in a lot of danger, and king safety is a very important part of the game because chess is about checkmating the king, right? So you need to make sure that it's safe. If you look at white's king here, it's very, very safe. Very, very safe. No problems at all here. So going back to it, we have queen takes f5. That could have been a move, but that did not happen actually. So going into this, we have rook a to e1, and then after bishop f5, Bishop f5 was played, and we had a check here, but Roxy chose queen takes c6. So now the bishop can now take this knight. Bishop takes knight is a real move. That's what happened in the game. And we're now down a second piece, which this is pretty tough. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, we're down 2 pieces, and it's really, really tough to come back when you're down this much material. So rook e5 was played, but it doesn't work the same because the file is already blocked by the bishop. But good try anyway. You want to keep fighting and never resign. So bishop to e4 was played here. Now rook h5 check looks pretty good. Black could almost be checkmated here. Luckily for black, the bishops cover all the squares that white needs for checkmates. So after this rook h5 move with check, king goes to g8, and then we go queen e6 check. Very nice. It almost looks like that we're about to win this game. It looks so awesome. It looks great. We're rooting for white here. And queen e6 check, rook f7 now blocks it. And this next move is now leading us into our third point, which is looking at your options. Look at all your checks and captures. So and when we look at that, you always have to ask yourself, where are my checks and captures? Where are my opponent's checks and captures? If you can't find these, then sometimes it'd be good, but most times it's pretty bad, especially if you miss them and you don't understand what's going on in the game here. So the best move to make was queen to g4 check and go for a perpetual check, which would be a draw, and it would go just like this. Rook to g7, and then we go back here for the check, and hopefully we want king to f8. If king f8, rook h8, and have a nice day. That sucks. Oh my goodness, I was winning, and now I'm completely losing and checkmated here on the back rank. Not fun, not a good day for black here. But if we go rook f7, well, let's just go back. Let's go back again. And if we repeat this position 3 times, then we're going to have a draw here, folks. It is a draw, a drawn game. And white walks away with no scratches, just drawn game, right? But if they do anything else, like if queen g4 and then king f8, if you're asking, well, same thing, rook h8 check, ouch, picking up the queen, and we're doing quite well here, almost actually probably winning at this point. But that did not happen. We actually Roxy played queen to e5 in this position. Queen e5 was the move, and after queen to e5, we're threatening checkmate. Very, very nice move. Queen e5 is a very good move to be making, actually, in this position. So rook a to e1, bishop f5, queen e5. Here we go. Queen e5 was played, and then rook to g7. So rook g7, and let's just say, what is queen e5 about? You got to look at your checks and captures. You have to look at your options here. And we're threatening checkmate right now. Hopefully, black is not on his P's and Q's and just completely misses that even queen or rook on h8 is checkmate. What a day. That would be great. Unfortunately, black found that, rook g7. And what we could do is go back again. Just keep checking them. But instead, we made a different move and played rook to d1. Ouch. Doesn't make sense. Got to look at all the checks and captures, not just for us, but for our opponent as well. And our opponent crashed down with a nasty check here on the g2 square. And then after king to f1, rook takes f2. Whoa, that's a big boy move. That's a tactic. That's strong stuff. King takes f2. And then we follow up with queen f8 check. Such a strong move, to say the least. Very nice move here. If king to g1, we have checkmate on e3. And if king to e2, well, let's look at it. In hindsight, queen f3 check, forcing king takes d2. And then queen to f2 check. This is tactics. Tactics win games. And then king c1 is forced, followed by queen c2, checkmate. So that just wouldn't work out. So we would only have another way to go, which is king to g1, which was played in the game. King g1 was played, and bishop e3 finishes off white with a checkmate. So it went from a draw to a lost game. It does happen, and losing, of course, is a great way to learn. A great way to learn. So you take a lot of learning from this, and every lost game you do want to learn from. Now, going back to this, the summary-wise, guys, you got to make sure that you don't have to play what the expected move is, and you can always play an in-between move. It's called an intermediate move, or Zug. It is an in-between move. So if you think that you're supposed to take something back, or you're supposed to do this move, try to find a move in between. And an in-between move sometimes gives you a little bit more extra than you thought you would. And that's summary number 1. Number 2 is it takes 3 pieces for a successful attack. If you have 2 pieces, you got to figure out how can I get that third over there, or it probably won't be successful. And I know a lot of you are going to take me up on this. I would love for you to do that so you can see how that works. Is it going to work with 2 pieces, or is it going to work with 3? 3 pieces is always the magic number. The more the merrier. So if you got 5 pieces, I don't know how you're going to lose that ever, you know. So 3 pieces is for a successful attack. And lastly, you have to ask yourself, where are my checks and my captures? If you find yourself not asking that, you're going to find yourself losing more and more games, or missing crucial points, or draws, or like miss wins, all kind of things that you can miss if you don't ask yourself, where are those checks and captures? So it's been fun working with you guys today. I hope you learned a lot. Now, again, make sure that you submit your games right under the video. Just click on the link, submit whichever games you like, so that hopefully yours is chosen for some member game analysis. So it's been fun. I'm National Master James Canty III with Chess.com, and I'll see you on the next one.